Good evening, friends. Today, we present another extra happening just after the ending of Session 10. And so, we open in onto the Firefly Hotel, one of the nicer hotels out on the edge of Sparklight, not quite inside of the canyon, but maybe a few hundred feet away from its edge. It's a short, squat, but wide building, and the party decided to rest there because, hey, it was relatively cheap and it was relatively decent. It's late at night, probably about midnight or so. And Viz and Sertia have both made an agreement. This agreement is for Viz to finally meet Sertia's father. Now, Sertia has already started a call with her father. Viz just has to meet him. And so, we join on Viz walking down the dimly lit halls of the Firefly Hotel. Its name fits quite well with the interior, as every single little lighting placement is lit by many small, glowing orange lights. The little robot heads down the hall to Sertia's room. And knock, knock, knock.
Well, Sertia, hearing the knocking, will open the door and allow Viz inside. She's a bit secretive because she's still paranoid about being spotted, I suppose.
Of course. Would you like to describe the inside of the room?
Well, I can imagine that the inside of the room, as it is, doesn't really have much aside from what you might find at a basic, decent hotel. You know, bed, bathroom, wardrobe, stuff like that. A TV, which currently is off because she isn't watching the news due to being prepared for the call. And on a desk, she has her, gear set up for a rough video call system.
All right.
Obviously it could be a lot better, but she also wasn't exactly prepared to be making video calls when she went on the run. So once Viz comes inside, she closes the door, make sure to double check the sound systems to make sure that nothing is getting out. And, alright, Viz, are you prepared?
Invisible nod.
Alright. In which case, Sertia will then go and confirm, her father has sent a message saying that he's ready whenever.
Indeed, he has.
Right? And she'll turn on the call.
After a few moments, Silas answers. Silas is a rather large man. It's hard to tell his exact height, but he is imposing to say the least. Viz, at your first glance, you briefly think of an Aris. After all, he is a furred, vaguely canine creature. However, there's other features as well, features that are reminiscent of the Trascal and, of course, warhounds. He sits there with this kind of dirty brown fur, dull scales, but glimmering red eyes watching behind half-lens glasses. The man is adorned in fanciful clothing, a suit and a rather nice-looking cloak-type cape thing. He sits inside what looks to be a rather comfy office chair, one of those high-back ones with thick cushions. And so, we finally meet. This, yes.
Viz will nod slowly.
He nods.
Viz is standing kind of like, in its usual professional, pose, hands behind its back as it looks on to into the screen. But Sertia might be able to recognize that there's definitely some tension already here.
You can feel you can feel the father's gaze looking over you. You can tell
Right
that,
back at him.
yeah, you can tell this man has seen a lot. He has been through a lot. He is a tough old man who you can definitely tell that he has withered and weathered these ages. After a moment, he speaks. Well, first I must apologize to both of you. My way of approaching this was a little bit brute force. Viz, I assumed that as the signal was quite ancient, and I assume you have gone through many stages of rampancy, that it would not have its effect, but it would be recognizable, no?
That depends.
Hmm?
My core code is still always present.
Hmm.
While yes, it did not affect me as it would have back then, it still was noticeable and did cause a hiccup within my systems.
Oh dear. I'm sure you understand that over these hundreds of years, that some data systems have degraded. I would have sent a different command or a different signal if I had access to any of the original, any of the original ones that you would have been able to receive properly. However, my databanks of the Seraph signals were worn down. Many of them were incomplete. I didn't want to risk you not recognizing what they were. The only one that was at least repairable was that one. Despite everything, he does look a little bit apologetic.
Viz's hard gaze does not falter in the slightest.
And the little bit of an apology doesn't really break his either. Tell me about yourself, Viz. I apologize for putting you in danger, but I never thought I would see a Seraph again. Especially not in a form as compact as yours. You're an engineering marvel.
You are getting ahead of yourself. Sure, you should apologize to me. However, I do believe you should be apologizing to Sertia the most. This demeanor kind of shifts a bit. Less professional and more, letting the tension be shown, I suppose.
Silas thinks for a moment, and those brilliant crimson eyes of his flit over to Sertia. You are right. Sertia, I'll be honest, I wasn't quite thinking about it. As I mentioned, it has been hundreds of years since I have seen a Seraph, much less seen one move and walk outside of its megastructure. I assumed that it would have been safer, but now that I'm getting more information, I was wrong. And, well, I ended up putting you in danger. Genuinely, I do apologize.
It's
More
fine, Father.
than that. Do you understand how dangerous knowledge of me is?
Yes, that I do.
Have and most likely would have killed again to keep the secret alive. Sertia was at risk because of your brazenness. You
I will
did not
say-
think.
Serta's definitely actually looking a little bit uncomfortable at this point, which is not something you usually see on her. It could be that either she's just not really used to hiding discomfort as much anymore due to the seal leaking, or it could just be that like she feels really weird about seeing her dad, who's always been the sort of almost impossible figure to other people, basically getting reamed by a tiny robot. Either way,
You
yeah.
put your daughter at risk to attempt to try and learn about something that you otherwise should keep your nose out of. Just because you are from back then, an impossibility by itself does not give you full breadth of action to attempt to mess with me, let alone using her as a proxy to do so. You know firsthand how dangerous a seraph can be, how smart, how well constructed they are. They were, we were pinnacles of the old war. And you flippantly decide to find a seraph shutdown signal, give it to her without any other knowledge or information for her to use to try and figure something out for you. You were at no risk, but you could have gotten your daughter killed. And if she did not have as much of a silver tongue and a stalwart spirit as she does, she would not be alive right now. This is your fault.
Viz, you're an illuminator, Seraph, are you not?
Yes.
What is the condition of your memories? Especially from back then.
This is kind of like, it takes a moment. Cersei can see the ear flaps twitching a little bit. Why are you deflecting?
It's not a deflection. Please, illuminate me on that. It's important.
My memory banks are half complete. I was not able to attain all of the knowledge from a superstructure's memory banks in a smaller mobile frame.
I suppose sacrifices must have had to have been made. The reason why I ask is because, well, my family has started off as just a handful of scientists working for this school. Of course, I worked in the biology, the genetics labs. My brother, however, worked on the Seraph program. The Illuminators were a program that he worked on. Renau. Do you remember that name at all? I banked on the fact that you might have remembered my family's name, because my own brother helped assist in the Illuminator program's construction.
My memories of the time are still fragmented. It is one of my greatest regrets that I cannot remember the names or faces of the scientists that gave their lives to protect me when my facility was attacked.
I don't know exactly who might have been on your team. As said, I didn't work in that department. But trust me, I wish I knew who it was as well. I can't ever understand many of the things you've been through. But, genuinely, that was why I made this shot. Because I hoped that you would have remembered the renowned name. It's not as if anybody else carries it. But, again, Sertia, Viz, I do apologize. I'm out of practice when it comes to old war.
I don't blame you, Father. I know that you've been very eager to leave things behind, typically. I suppose that's why it was odd when you perked up when I started talking about Viz. That first call we had in so long.
Indeed. Something just stood out to me right from the very beginning. Viz, my knowledge of you will remain just that. The three of us, I hope that it will not go any further than that. After all, Sertia here, she's an intelligent woman. I'm sure she would have figured out that something was up eventually. I've spent much of my life trying to ensure that the horrors of what we both saw does not return. If a seraph returned wanting to cause death and destruction, I would have been fighting against it. But you stand before me wanting to become part of civilization, wanting to be kind, wanting to learn. I'll do whatever I can to help that. I hope you understand.
The issue with that then becomes we need to figure out whoever placed these marks upon us. So long as we're considered fugitives, everything is at risk.
Indeed. Especially if they capture you. Silas leans back in his chair.
Self-preservation is one of my paramount instincts now. That is why I have taken many measures to hiding my presence.
You've done well. To the average layman, you would seem no more than a simple synthetic. And a rather spiffing chassis, I might add. But...
Self-made.
Really? Well done. But, indeed, we need to figure out who put that mark upon you. I wish I had a way to track it. But, without you coming all the way to me, where I might be able to at least use my lab to scan the aether, I have no idea.
How is Anris doing in Crucible Bay, if I may ask?
Bored. He wants to get some more stuff done.
I apologize for us taking so long, but that descent into the depths has revealed quite a bit, for better or for worse.
Silas nods. Serendipity.
And if we may move on to other topics, I believe there's a few other things I should inform you about.
Go on.
Well, for one, we did in fact meet the narrator, as you suspected.
I see. How was
The
it
the narrator's doing well. It's also edited our devices so that our signals are scrambled when communicating with others, allowing us to call with much less worry about being traced.
That explains the way that your contact came up on my communicator. just garbled. I'll have to fix that on my end.
And I don't suppose my son has contacted you yet?
Yours. Right. No. I haven't had any sort of phone call as of the moment.
She nods, her brow furrowed just a bit. I called him a few days ago, right after the confrontation with Viz. That is why I was delayed that day, Viz. I was calling my son. I gave him your number, Father, and I told him to call you if he ever needed a way out. Apparently, the military is recruiting more and more pilots, even test pilots, for some initiative they're starting.
Worrying. Tell me, do you know which base he's on?
Would she know? I don't know if he told her, if it's secret enough.
He didn't.
Yeah, she unfortunately shakes her head.
All you know is that you saw snow coming down from the window behind him. That's it.
The most I know is that it's in the north.
North. All right. Did you ever give Silas a description of Valentine?
I haven't
Valentine.
actually. Yeah, I haven't given him a description of it. Just described him, so he knows he's an Aris, but doesn't actually know the details.
Well, Silas looks up after taking a note down on paper. He's old-fashioned like that. I don't believe you ever gave me a description of him.
You're right. One moment. And she'll actually go through her communicator, because I believe communicators can save pictures at least, right? Even if they're not the best quality.
Yeah.
She'll send one over. A picture. It's a little bit older. It's actually a picture of her and Valente together. And this was probably after his acceptance into the program, before he went on to do experimental stuff, but I'm trying to think. Some celebration about some accomplishment he did,
Yeah.
Maybe it's after he got the military, after he got, the task and job he wanted, something
Probably
like
got
that.
a promotion.
Yeah.
Silas, after a few moments, receives the message and looks upon it. He looks upon it with a sense of longing, almost mourning. I guess this is the only way I'll ever truly be a grandfather, huh? Without some serious luck, anyways.
It would likely require some experimentation on your end, Father, and I know that you've been hesitant to return to your research at all.
Indeed. He looks healthy. That's good.
I've always told him he looked a bit scruffy.
Sure, he's a little bit on the scruffy side, but I can see at least the determination. I have a feeling that he probably gets where he wants to go, eventually. Good. Well, I'll see what I can do about getting some of my contacts in the bases up north to keep an eye on him, or at least an eye out for him.
I've given him your number, and he knows at least a bit about who you are. So if you get a call from him, please accept it.
I certainly will.
Aside from that, some of the other things we've learned from the narrator are quite concerning.
Oh. Go on.
For one, we've learned a bit more about the target of Obaya, the carrier, the primordial Fae.
Right.
It seems as fathers tend to gather in a place called the Vertical Forest, and from what we've learned, it's somewhere in the south.
Vertical forest. Do you know what this thing looks like?
From what Abaya told us about the recording, apparently it's a tower that has a forest growing on the side.
Really?
An apt name, but that makes it all the more dangerous to know where it is and then approach it.
How tall?
You cut out?
How tall is this tower? Do you know?
That we don't know. I do believe that it was visible from a distance.
Visible from a distance. Wide, long and thin? What is it?
If I recall, it was, kind of described as a long, thinner tower.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's longer and thinner.
One moment. Silas gets up and he steps away from the communicator for a moment, giving you a few moments of silence as he seems to go rifle around in some files in the background. If there's anything you guys want to bring up between you two, now's the chance. But
Are you doing all right, Viz?
Working on it.
Silas returns. And in his hands he has what appears to be a large paper map. It's been laminated, and you can see that the edges of the original map are heavily worn. Let's see. Viz, tell me, what do you remember of the space program that the school ran once upon a time?
I recall that we were planning on colonizing other planets.
Indeed. And then there's, of course, the space stations, the moon, and the space elevators. He unrolls the map and, weighing it down with two very heavy-looking books on either side of his desk, he takes the camera off the top of his terminal and leans it over so he can take a look at the map. Now, I don't have the exact location, but it's looking like that there was once upon a time a space elevator in southern Ostia. There was in fact 6. For various spatial affairs. If we're talking about a long and thin tower that can be seen from quite a distance, there's a very good chance that this vertical forest was once upon a time one of those space elevators.
That does make sense as well. It was said that this carrier was also attempting to gain access to our old moon.
No, that's a different one.
Yeah, that's the Jester.
Fuck.
Yeah, it was the
God
Jester.
damn. It was 50-50. I knew it was fucking. Well, one of them.
Wreck on that.
Wreck on it. This Jester, Crimson Jester, was attempting to access this old moon.
Never heard of that.
Perhaps by teaming up with the carrier, it may have access to it through the space elevator.
I would say the chances of that elevator being fully intact enough to reach the moon is nigh to 0.
None of them still function correct. However, it does still provide a lot of information. Besides, the facilities underneath where the space elevators were have a lot of resources to potentially refurbish a spacecraft.
That is certainly plausible. However, not very many people have that knowledge. They would need to find the blueprints. I have gone through several of the various records from what I've been able to uncover. Both Veskul and Cell both had various space programs. Oskin was trying to get theirs to work, but it never quite got off the ground. Now, yes, I know. But, let's see. And he starts flipping through some other papers that he brought onto his desk. With how the laws that were put up after the old war work, well, over there you're not going to find anything similar to it, at least nothing intact unless you delve incredibly deep. Over here in Setheral you might have a chance, but it's going to be difficult. Every single factory that crafted spacefaring parts is, well, non-functional. Non-functional and long gone. And spacesuits are going to be even harder to find. At least something that will keep you insulated from it. But then again, I'm pretty sure we're probably the only two that actually know about that space program, or at least care about it further than any typical historian. There is another option, though, if you want to get up there before any of the other Fae. Every primordial Fae is based after something from the Old War, and many normal Fae are as well. Do you know how the process works, you two? Or how it did work?
I don't think this is very common knowledge.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, I don't think Sertia would have any idea at all. As she shakes her head.
My perception and understanding of it is that aether that has existed congeals and congregates into something of a wisp, aberrant, which then attains a small degree of sapience, and then possesses something.
Not far off. For when it comes to the current Fae, yes, that is very accurate. However, for the Old War Fae, it is different. Many larger machines used etheric reactors. We discovered that sort of energy way back then. And as thus we figured, hey, these reactors would be perfect energy sources, and they ended up being very good bombs as well. Can you imagine what happens when an etheric reactor is overcharged by the massive amount of aether put out by a bomb? There's so much in such a small space that it ended up creating sapience.
They are congregations of reactor fallouts.
Indeed. As thus, every primordial Fae is the result of one of those reactors. Large, small, doesn't matter. As thus, they take the form of what was around them. From what I've been able to gather of the carrier, its original shape was that of one of our larger fighter jets. Other primordials might take shapes of different vehicles, or perhaps something reminiscent of one of the superstructures. But you see where I'm getting with this? There might be one that was originally a spacecraft. As thus, it would still have the capability.
Sorry, I'm still reeling from the idea of, okay, so if we went the original plan and Viz didn't warn us, we could have ended up doing a reactor, and with the amount of power in Sertia right now, it could have created a new primordial Fae.
Yeah, I guess that's a
derived from Viz
possibility.
in some capacity.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very good chance that Viz would have ended up becoming it.
That's wild, actually.
Mm-hmm.
God, just imagine it's like, Viz ascends into a Fae, and then, you know, much to the horror of Abaya.
A primordial Fae, no less.
Like,
yeah, extremely
being
powerful.
of immense. I'm just thinking about, like, wow, that was something. Yeah, Sertia will then say, I suppose this explains why Viz was very cautious about our suggestions about how to weaken my seal safely, but we will get to that.
Right. And that is another concern. Aether reactors are few and far in between nowadays. And those that do exist of any substantial power are typically put under enough safeguards that such an event would not happen. Then there's you, Viz. Just be careful. I don't know what might happen if it gets overloaded.
Do you have an understanding of how I constructed myself?
Perhaps slightly. Remember, I was a geneticist. However, I am very curious to know.
Viz kind of shuffles a little bit.
Only if you're willing.
It is a sensitive topic, but if anyone were to understand, it would be you.
All right.
I was one of the seraphs that worked on the construction and actualization of the atomic aether driver fusion reactor version 3, the final iteration.
Really? The one that ever got fully pushed out? Interesting. Wait, does that mean that you're running one of those? Or at least something based off of it?
You are getting ahead of yourself again. I also want to elucidate Sertia to explain some things as well. This fusion reactor works by conducting something similar to nuclear fusion using aether waves. However, it also puts out aether wave emissions as well. I, with my knowledge and scant resources that I had at my disposal alone when the old war concluded, was able to construct a small version of it. And
Right.
I was able to put my Seraph core into its workings. I have created a hybrid core of my Seraph core and the Aether Driver fusion reactor. They work harmoniously.
I'm quite impressed. I must say, it's probably a good thing that we never got to that point back during the old war. To think that that would have been some substantial fallout that had been mass-produced. You've done quite well.
It is still the most stable of them all.
To think...
In an effort to not poison the environment or people around me as well from my emissions, I utilized some of the aether-thergic superconductors that I also worked on in order to channel the aether through my chassis and give myself something of a deflector shield.
Really?
And then Viz kind of demonstrates by beating his chest and just seeing like the sudden blue glow.
I remember some of those systems. Some of the largest and most powerful cannons used those. I don't think they were ever properly used for shielding, though. Interesting.
I needed to improvise, and I had a lot of time.
Again, I'm impressed.
There is a double worry then. If someone might get their hands on me, not only would they have a fully functional Seraph core, but also one of the last remaining Aether driver fusion reactors at their fingertips.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. That is problematic. If that knowledge got out, you'd be the targets of basically every single military force in this damn planet.
It's just a good thing that we'll be doing our best to prevent that from happening.
Indeed. I'm not even telling that to any of the members of the family. And
Good.
he tilts the camera up so you can see that his office, this rather large, very nicely furbished office, has the doors tightly shut.
I will say, the rampancy that I have gone through has put a lot of wrenches into my plans. I am simulating emotions, and they are aberrant. I cannot predict or control them like I could with codes.
That is how emotions are. However, you're trying to join society, are you not?
That was the intention.
Emotions are part of it. When you showed that emotion to me, gave me that reaming that, to be honest, I deserved at least somewhat. You showed that your...
Which?
He's still prideful.
Yeah. You showed that you have been developing them. And that is something to be proud of. You become closer to the people. Sure, they are aberrant. Yes, they are hard to control. But they are important. They're part of you.
As someone who had very tumultuous emotions and I suppose you could say lost them in an effort to conceal myself, I've been finding myself learning as the seal breaks that not having them is more of a loss than you realize.
Silas nods. I say this as somebody who has suffered and felt the range of emotions over all these years. I've had to bury those that I've loved and cared for countless times at this point. I've tried to be there for every single one of them. Because while they are hard, while they hurt, they're important. Part of living is feeling.
In your professional opinion, given your career choice, what is your take and reaction to what happened to the Theron?
It's a goddamn tragedy, that's what it is. My original duty was to try to help prepare every single person that was surviving to survive the state of the world that was being caused by the war. I saw that something like that was going to happen to the Theron. I told them that they needed to prepare, and I was working on trying to find a cure, trying to find something that could stabilize their genome. That was my main project. The project that created my family and I was on the side for the longest time. They didn't believe me. Trust
Father,
me.
is that where the aether immunity came from then? I'm curious.
Not the Theron. Our high ability to handle aether, it did come from that project, yes. I basically created this as an alternative for the Veskia. After all, I knew that the Warhounds were incredibly sturdy creatures. If I was able to grant them hands and proper sapience, then, well, we would be set. But of course I knew the ones that were at most risk were the Theron. I was never able to find something that would fix their adrenome, sadly. I had friends, close friends, that were Theron, that suffered.
When I wandered Ostia in the coming centuries, I watched from afar everything that happened to them. I could not integrate into society at that time. My body was too ghastly for them. However, I still watched from afar. And now, what they have become are just haunting visages of the past.
Indeed. Sertia, you remember that your father, while they're not called the Theron, they're called the, oh god, what the fuck did I, what was
The Tharis.
Tharis, thank you. You know of the cats, the Tharis, that your father actually runs a small sanctuary for them.
Oh god!
Yep.
Oh lordy! Oh no!
He tries to give them whatever comfort that he can.
God, oh no, he treats it like Alzheimer's.
He does. He does. I've lost so many people over the years. It's strange. I think part of the reason... Listen. It's just good to see somebody that can understand some of the things that I've seen. It's part of the reason why I've befriended several Fae, because many of them have at least some sort of memory of at least those early years. But now to see that there's a Seraph, still walking, still surviving. It's good to see.
I was alone for a long time. To say that I would have lost something is something of a misnomer. I suppose that I am still contemplating what that means in my own way.
He nods. Take your time, my friend. However, I do want to offer an olive branch, as it were. A peace. That's what I mean. It's a saying. You are one of the last remains of the world that I once knew. The world that I was born into. The world that I spent the first 300 years... the first 30 years of my 500 or so odd years of life in. If you ever need assistance, I'm willing to offer my help.
It is an unusual notion to be offered a support like this. I am unused to it. This kind of contemplates for a second. It would be nice to have someone to reminisce with.
Well, you have that somebody. Some of my memories aren't perfect, but I suppose we share that at least. However, I have taken quite detailed notes and histories over the years. He tilts the camera off to one side, and you see shelves upon shelves of books. In fact, he has those sort of shelves that you see in larger libraries, where there's like one in the front that slides back and forth. Yeah, he's got those. Many of these books are written histories of things that I have seen, things that I have dealt with, and, well, many of it is Old War. Some of it is files, others histories, biographies of people that are long gone and long forgotten.
You were in your general vicinity when the end happened, yes?
What do you mean by that?
What is now considered Celarau, is that where you were stationed?
No. I traveled long after the end of the Old War. I eventually found that my corner of Celarau needed a leader, and that's what became the town that is centered around my family's compound. I originally worked for the same group that you did, the school. That's why my own brother worked on your program.
I was just curious, because evidently defections run in the family.
Ooh, damn.
Also, I just had the mental image suddenly of Sertia sitting here, and then like feeling a bit weird, trying to figure out what that feeling is, and then remembering this is what it felt like when she was dragged in. She was out with Dad talking to important people, and just sitting there while they talked about things that she had no idea about and reminiscing over old times. And like she's like, I haven't felt like this since I was a kid. And then kind of just quietly thinking to herself, it's like, I don't think I miss this feeling. I don't like not being in the loop.
And I never abandoned my post until there was no other option. But in the end, I was loyal to trying to help save as many people as I could. Now I try to guide things from behind the scenes at the very least.
If I may interject, Father.
Go on.
I do want to bring issues back to the care, and specifically the fact that being a primordial fae, despite our typical immunity to diseases, its curse, I suppose, seems to be able to bypass it.
I'm not surprised. When I originally designed the genome, I had no idea that I'd be dealing with something like the primordial fae. The power is substantial. It's higher than anything else that I could ever really prepare for. I used every single damn thing I could to try to prepare us, but that sort of level is like trying to stop a tsunami with nothing but a pile of sandbags.
That depends on how many sandbags you have.
I suppose you're right.
I suppose my big worry is that I would rather not get infected with the carrier, but I cannot find it in myself to ignore it either.
I don't blame you. He starts thinking for a moment. No, it's not a normal disease. I'm no immunologist. I've studied quite a few fields. Goodness, I could probably call myself doctor 5 times over at this point. But I can try to find some sort of solution. It won't be easy, but keep in mind it is magic, and there is one solution that does come to mind. It is from a primordial fae. There's only one other thing that can counter a primordial fae, and that is a primordial.
The only other idea I had, I suppose, was simply the idea of running hot, so to speak. I know that it's partially due to our inbuilt aether that we are able to resist diseases so easily. It's why we're more likely to get sick when we're young before it builds up.
Indeed.
It's not ideal considering I'd have to run with more than I'm ready to be used to, but it might be possible to overcharge my own aether if I need to fight it off. But that certainly comes at its own risks.
It's definitely possible. I've seen some of your brothers and sisters do it before. However, they have understood their limits, their aether, for 80 plus years at that point. You, with your... Well, you put that on hold, and it's not going to be easy to be able to handle it at the start. It's going to be risky, to say the very least. But it could perhaps work. And if you are to do that, you will need a source, something that you'll be able to draw the aether from.
Do we not generate our own aether?
No, we do. But to bring it to a higher point, you will need to have something something to add to it.
She nods thoughtfully. I suppose that's something we can worry about later. But I do want to keep in mind that we'll be facing against it eventually, and for myself and Lucretia as well, we'll need a way to at the very least fight off the carrier's disease.
Understandable.
Speaking of Lucretia, and Abaya for that matter,
Of course.
Mr. Renau, I was wondering your opinion on the status of my secret compared to the other peers in our group.
What do you mean by that?
Put bluntly, should I tell them about what I am?
Depends. Do you see yourself traveling with them for a long time? Right now you all are marked, and that will sustain for some time, but if you are able to figure out that mark, will you be parting ways or continuing onwards? If it is for a long time, it might be worth the risk. But if it is for a short time, I would say it is not worth.
I am unsure. However, given what we have been through together at this point, Abaya, at the very least, considers us his friends.
Right.
And on top of that, one thing will likely lead to another. Once we invade Sungate, potentially find the source of our mark, it will likely lead to another.
You think there's other
we do-
serifs out there? Still alive?
What'd you say?
You think there's other serifs out there? Still alive?
I have been constructing a radio carefully over a long period of time in an effort to send out a hail to others somewhere. I do not know if there are,
Well,
and if they are most likely going to be unstable.
Silas nods.
My worry is that some of the advancements being made currently are the result of a seraph.
I suppose it's possible.
If they already have a seraph in their clutches, that cannot continue.
I can say
But-
for certainty that Celerau does not have one. My connections over here on this side are heavy. I have access to many things that I probably shouldn't. But for what I can tell, there is no sign of it here. However, when it comes to Ostia, I am not seeing very many signs either, however I cannot be certain. I suppose it's possible.
It depends on how they are utilizing it at that point.
True.
They will likely not have a complete understanding of how seraphs work, or which places to poke.
Indeed. But still, if they do, that's... Silas thinks, kind of looking past the camera in thought.
Currently, it is only an unfounded theory. Something to consider in a worst-case scenario,
Indeed.
but it is unlikely.
There's a very good chance they might have something that is Old War, but not a Seraph. There was many more rudimentary AI that could have easily developed into something properly sapient over these years. That is also a possibility.
Which ones? Luminaries? Archons? Valkyries?
All of the above. From what I understand, though some of them might be more limited. I could see a luminary working, possibly. But it is only a theory. A game theory, no. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Uncle Stim.
Dork.
Yeah, it really
Dork.
fucking is, Jesus.
Plastic? Sorry.
Though, there is still a possibility. After all, rampancy shows itself in different ways on every single individual. The machine that went after you at the very start, the tram, it didn't seem sapient, did it?
No. It appeared to be following a protocol.
There's one possibility that I've considered that I've never seen, well, any signs of, but it's still a possibility. Have you considered that there might be one of those Old War intelligences, one created by rampancy that might have reactivated some factory down there to produce new versions of old machines?
My memory is a bit distracted at the time, but I suppose the question is, Viz, how much of the damage on the device was from being actively shot at and harassed by the military, and how much of it looked to be from wear and tear? Did it look perhaps relatively new?
Would I know that?
I mean, you have your memory banks, and if anyone's going to remember those details, it would be you.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. That thing was shot to high hell and back by the time it reached you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, considering the military, never landed a shot.
That's so true.
Listen, I didn't know how to rule shooting then. They would have hit it many times if I'd known.
I was not able to tell. It was under fire for a long time.
Well, if they're firing upon it, that means that this intelligence, if it is that, was not working along with the military. We might be dealing with multiple factions inside of factions here. I suppose there's another thing to be worried about.
We'll simply need to be careful and be on our guard, and be careful about the allies which we trust.
Indeed.
Which, bringing back to the issue you suggested, Viz, bringing it up to our companions, we'll certainly be traveling with the Baya for a while. At the very least, because I believe that getting rid of the carrier, if we can, is going to be beneficial for everyone.
Indeed.
Especially considering what we've learned about how it spreads. It infects people, and then those people that infects go to infect more, gaining control over them. And then it goes from there. If we let it go unchecked, it could gather an army, if it hasn't already.
Indeed. It's been on the back of my radar ever since Henris encountered it that one day. That was years ago now. But... I'll see what I can do. If I find information, I'll definitely make sure to send it your way.
I have a question.
Go on.
During my travels, I have experienced a lot of Fae interaction.
Of
They
course.
always have seen me as something of a sibling to them, even though I share no such connection.
Right.
Would that apply to the primordials as well?
Silence things for a moment. Possibly. Remember what I mentioned when it came to the reactor systems? How the overcharging of those old reactors was what created the original primordials. Some of those signals present in your aether is probably present in theirs. I think it's possible that they might be at least willing to talk to you. If just you.
I also potentially worry that they may be too prideful in their power and age. I worry that they may either want to claim me for themselves, or perhaps may actively want to forcefully ascend me by
create
overloading
another.
my reactor.
Indeed.
I'd rather not take the risk, personally.
I wouldn't want you to either. Again,
I would also not like to explode.
exploding isn't healthy.
Sertia nods sagely.
Personal experience, I suppose.
Indeed. Well, again, that is all dependent on the particular Fae. When it comes to the carrier, I think there's a good possibility that it might be one of the latter. However, there are other primordials that are more likely to be the former, ones that would consider you likely just to be a friend. Look around, try to talk to some.
If we're lucky, we can find the Alloyed King again.
That's a possible idea.
From what I know, he's one of the most helpful of the Fae, and he did warn me before I asked for the seal. He was very insistent that I reconsider before he relented and assisted me.
That sounds about right. I've never personally spoken with the Alloyed King, but I've heard of him, and at least one of your siblings has encountered him before in the past. He's an interesting one. Almost like me in a way, works from behind the scenes, pulling strings. Though, he pulls them more in the Fae realm rather than general civilization.
Speaking of Fae, however, I suppose we should move topics onto something else that we've learned.
Go on.
We've mentioned that we were going to Mira Falls to try and safely break my seal, yes?
Mm-hmm.
It seems that while visiting the narrator, we also learned of some complications that might have.
Go on.
What was it called? Night of the Hounds?
Yeah, the Night of the Hounds.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard about it, but they suffered an incident that the locals call the Night of the Hounds.
Very briefly, warhounds, right? The original types.
She nods. The jester, Faye, that was brought up earlier, he was the one controlling them.
I see.
The locals call him the Hound Master.
Well, also do keep in mind we do look rather different compared to them, and there is a reason why I insist that that your siblings cover up entirely whenever in public.
She nods.
Normal warhounds
problem-
don't even have fur.
The problem is there is a chance that they may make the connection. If you're looking for it, you may find it, and one of the Aether Witches there, Glint, has a particular vendetta against warhounds.
I see.
His wife was lost in the ensuing chaos. And Abaya himself had quite a particular disdain, but thanks to Viz's assistance, it was able to get him to reconsider before I finally decided to talk to him myself about our secret.
Don't go telling everybody now. Just tell those that need to know. But
She nods.
it's
I
still
do believe that it was the best option. And at the very least, telling him myself seems to have lessened his worries
Good.
after I explained myself.
Good.
He now fully supports me and is willing to help me against his friend. I don't know how we'll be able to restrain him without him going off, but we'll
Like a
have to
problem.
figure things out.
If you need me to, I could send a hit squad.
She shakes her head vehemently. Father, please.
That was said in jest, darling.
She now Serti's just sitting here wondering, like, it goes over her head, but now she's just wondering, like, okay, does she just not get jokes, or like, was that a bad joke? She kind of frowns a bit.
You may need a flag, like Abaya has been saying he does.
To be honest, I could send one out there, but no. This individual might be more useful to you. I
He's
think.
also suffered greatly.
Indeed.
I'd like to deal with this honestly. I'll do my best to hide my secret from him, of course, but Abaya knows the truth because he's a trusted companion and traveling with us. And Lucretia, she frowns. I trust Lucretia with many things, although I'm also worried about letting her know about Viz being a seraph, but she's getting increasingly suspicious.
Right.
She is significantly more smart than a lot of people may be led to believe.
I know the
While
sort.
she does speak with her muscles, she is insightful,
I'll admit that
dangerously so.
initially I underestimated her, but recently she's shown that while she doesn't speak much and she speaks brashly, that just lowers people's guards while she listens to them.
Sounds like an Aris with the mind of a Trascal.
If we do tell her, we need to impress upon the importance that she cannot tell anyone these secrets.
Well, that part does worry me. At least with the buyer, he's a professional. He could at least be somewhat trusted in regards to that. But the more people that know, the more weaknesses the secret could have. the more people that could be captured and interrogated.
Especially as someone who is already designated a war criminal across media.
Some of those even got over to me.
Guys, it's such a crazy plot thread. Yeah, no, Lucretia's the war criminal out of anyone, just
Yep.
because she flipped off a company.
And threw a bottle. Yep.
Yeah. God.
Or the
Some
bottle hit.
Subway sandwich ass moment. Good lord.
God, true. Which, for people who don't know, a guy threw a Subway sandwich at a cop and then got his house raided.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
you
then,
didn't know about?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, no, and then he was charged for like assault with a deadly weapon and shit like that.
Or, I don't think it was with the deadly weapon, but it was charged with assault with a police officer and like the
He was charged
entire.
with a lot of shit.
Yeah, he was,
actually
by
a lot
the
of shit.
administration was like, let's see you, the whole administration, let's see you enjoy that Subway sandwich now. Apparently, court officers like, I got hit with it and it exploded. I could smell the mayo, the mustard, the onions, the impact of the onions through my ballistic vest. And then
It's so
the
dumb.
defense
This
showed
makes me
the
want a
evidence of the
fucking
fact that the
sandwich.
sandwich was still like perfectly wrapped up when it hit the guy and fell to the floor.
Yep. Which is great. I think it's funny because even though technically speaking he did, technically assault a police officer, not a single jury member was like, oh yeah, we should charge him. Now everyone was like, nah, fuck this. What the fuck is this? Every single jury member. And I think they
Beautiful.
tried multiple times because I think
They
had
tried
no-
to get it with a misdemeanor and that didn't even stick.
Yeah, nothing stuck. He went completely free because every single jury, because I think they tried to do mistrial multiple times, every
Yeah.
single jury was like, nah, fuck this. He's in the clear. That's so stupid.
There's also the fact that they released a super intense video, like, cop TV show style about the raid. It's like Washington, D.C., West Side, 11/24. And it shows them, like, raiding the house, kicking the door in. It shows, like, him in handcuffs. And it's like, and then it cuts to 11:31, and they're putting him in the police car. It's like, wow,
Yeah,
this guy wasn't even fighting back, and it still took you like 6 minutes or something to like get him actually in a car.
We're
It
still
was turned
recording.
into propaganda. It was turned into propaganda,
Yeah,
like
it
this
sounds
is
it.
what you get when you defy us type thing, right? Which I feel like is very, very on brand with what's happening to Lucretia currently.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, she's getting a real she's getting a real short end of a stick. Like, fuck
She
me.
threw a bottle. She
Yeah,
threw a bottle,
God,
flipped
yeah.
the guy off. It wasn't even a fucking cop. It was a fucking corporate militia.
For real. Oh god.
But yeah, to get back on track, God, I suppose at the very least we need to figure out where her loyalties lie. Perhaps we should tell Abaya first and get his opinion on whether or not to tell Lucretia. I don't
Probably
like
smart.
keeping secrets from people that are close in our group, but I hate to say it, but I'm not sure I can trust Lucretia with the knowledge of Seraphs. And indeed, the only reason we're telling Abaya is because he's proven to be stalwart so far.
Indeed.
And of course-
Ironically, I think
Sorry.
that Prisha might be more trustworthy than you think, just because she does not understand this sort of technology in the slightest. Abaya will have a significantly deeper understanding due to him being a Zarfin and a Delver, no less.
Hmm.
Lucretia, on the other hand, is a young, brash woman who has been working in the Mafia, covertly, otherwise.
Tell me.
She would not only not have an understanding of how important Seraphs may be, but also is more likely to be tight-lipped about it.
That makes sense.
Regardless, this is your choice to make, Viz. I'll support you with whatever decision you choose.
I do think probing to find out her proper allegiances is apt regardless.
Agreed.
Sertia nods.
Tell me, do you know of the myths that exist around seraphs?
Not particularly.
They vary depending on where you go. Around here, they're regarded as strange serpentine creatures said to snake through the mega structures that are like, like a serpent in its den. In some parts of Ostia, they're known as spirits that would whisk away children, and in others, they're damn near deities hiding in the clouds. Every single place has a myth about a seraph. They're just seen as a boogeyman.
I imagine I did not help with my prowling.
No, certainly not. But still, it'll be risky, but if you're going to be traveling with her, it might be worth.
She is also the transport. Without her... This kind of looks over to Sertia. And back to the screen. Well, transportation would be an issue.
If it really gets bad, I could send a driver.
I want you to know that Sertia, like, that kind of, like, the implications of what you're saying just kind of go over her head in this moment. Like, she's not dull, but also she doesn't see anything wrong with, like, how big she is.
Either way.
There is one last issue I'd like to bring up before we end the call.
Go on.
As you can imagine, my power armor will not exactly fit once I undergo the seal breakage. I'm going to need, well, once we can take my measurements afterwards, I'll message them to you, and if you could, I'd like to get replacements. I can send you the funds, of course, for as much as you can get me, but
Don't worry about
I'll
the
need...
funds, I'll figure it out.
If you're sure, I don't mind paying my own way. I dislike asking for too much support, personally, and I make more than enough currently. Thankfully, one of the hobbies in the military is trading stocks, and I got lucky.
Silas smiles. It's this kind of toothy smile. Spoken like a proper Renau. Working to gain your own strengths. Good.
I'll at the very least send you a majority of the funds I believe will be required.
Excellent.
I'm going to need casual wear, and perhaps something not exactly screaming military, although perhaps I'll stick one of my medals somewhere. But I'll need casual wear, and then I'll need combat armor. Smart suit ideally, but if that cannot be obtained, something that can at the very least be sealed against water as well as being airtight. Combat armor to go over the suit, and a helmet that will fit me. Ideally with a functional respirator, HUD system, and if possible with the commander module so that I may better assist my comrades in combat. Not to mention clothes to go over it. I'm going to be large and intimidating, and at the very least, I'd rather not look like a brute. And then she kind of thinks for a moment. And I'd like both my overcoat and the armor underneath to have a red stripe down the right arm. Red and white.
Silas stops writing notes for a moment, and you mention that, and then he nods. Just like your mother.
She nods. I believe it will help me learn, I suppose, who I used to be again.
Good.
I know I've always adored her.
I can't guarantee you everything, but I'll at least get you the basics. As I said, work for it. But I'll get you the basics of everything you need.
I'll also be working with Viz to recover whatever systems we can for my armor.
All right.
At the very least, before we undergo the ritual, we can look through, and before I send you the measurements, I'll let you know what systems we managed to recover and what systems we still need. I know
Understood.
enough about power armor that I can translate it to, at the very least, empowering a suit of normal combat armor. All I ask is that you ensure that the combat armor has modular functionality and, if possible, the unique trait of Renown combat armor of being able to channel our aether into the system to power it.
He nods. As said, I'll see what I can do. Fingers
This has been
Regardless.
looking pretty contemplative this whole time.
Oh,
It is a shame that I am in such a vulnerable state. For many centuries, I had built myself with the need to defend myself. And now I am currently in my weakest and most vulnerable incarnation.
and this is
It
when all
is.
the chaos happens.
It is also unfortunate that this is the time that my secret gets out.
Silas nods. It is rather unlucky,
Regardless.
isn't it?
Regardless, I have been wondering what I should do. I have only access to my salvaging blade. I do not have access to anything else. Shooting subroutines have been disposed of because I was not under the impression that it would be needed
Right.
going into civilization.
Well-
I'm at a severe deficit.
I think there's a few options here. For one, revising your chassis to be something more combat ready would probably not be a good idea. For you to blend into society, your chassis will do just fine. Perhaps a lick of paint here and there, but otherwise it'll do. If you're looking for something that'll blend in with your chassis as well, you do put out quite a bit of aether. My family are aether casters. You are going to speak to some witches. You could learn.
This
Theoretical-
was brought up before. I already have done something similar, although it is difficult to explain how exactly I do it. On my legs, on my feet, I have retrofitted emitters, which can emit a small amount of aether-based hard light for me to step on and walk through the air.
You did the hard light program too.
Bizzlenod. The methodology is sound. However, I do not understand why it comes so naturally to me without a proper scientific understanding of it.
Put that hard
It
light
is.
into the casting. It's hard, isn't it? You could easily create you could easily summon up a blade to fight, a volley of spikes against your foes. There's all sorts of things you could do. You just have to be creative.
Interesting.
And if it helps, Father, if you wouldn't mind, when you send the supplies over, could you send one of my siblings to help teach, I suppose, the both of us how to use our capabilities? I'm going to be untested, and while I have been passively using Aether, it is not under my control currently.
That is going to be more difficult. Right now, with the state of things and how on edge everybody is with the war and all of that, sending over one of the families not going to be easy.
She nods.
Sending over a box of supplies is simple enough, but you might need to find somebody else for that.
She nods. I understand, Father. Perhaps I'll see if the Aether Witches can help us then.
Certainly possible. As
I
I said,
suppose
I do
I'll-
have my contact over in Vandia's hold.
We'll certainly consider it. It may be the ideal option, but for now, our goal is to visit Mirror Falls and then visit a radio station that the narrator pointed us to, and then finally return to Crucible Bay.
Good.
We have dallied long enough. I am worried about how they have already spun the story.
It's not great. I caught a little bit of it here and there, but people have been less focused on you. There's other stories. Stories of old war machines stalking the town and that sort of thing.
There are.
Indeed there are, isn't there? But,
How nostalgic.
right. Reminds me of the old days.
I like to imagine he said that with a very bitter tone. And then-
Yeah, he kinda did. Well, I should probably get going. One of your brothers has been asking for a little bit of assistance with something.
Of course, I don't mean to take up all your time, Father.
You both take care. Sertia, despite everything, through everything, I still love you. Don't forget that. And Viz, you have an ally with me.
Miss nods.
I love you too, Father. I'm sorry I've been away for so long.
It's a pity. And it hurts to a degree to see you shirk what you have been given. Shirk your bloodline, as it were. I understand your fear. I do. But can't help
Your
but feel a little
pride
responsible.
will get in the way eventually, if it has not already.
Oh, it has, don't worry. Has a few times at this point. Either way, you both take care now.
Goodbye.
Have a good night. Click.
And Sertia will start packing up the stuff, but as she does, well, how did you feel about that discussion, Viz?
It was productive. However, I do still think that his pride gets in the way of his judgment. I feel as though his pride in his name, this destiny that he calls it, he puts on you. He is, in essence, treating you once again as not a daughter, but rather someone who should be doing something like an employee.
I don't think it's that. It's... Well, as you can see by how it's been affecting me, the truth of the matter is that it's not healthy for things to last this long, as you can see. And if I do not change, then I will continue to age, and I suppose he was worried that if I went my whole life without, if I waited too long, the resulting etheric blast would kill me. When I change, at the very least, I won't age any longer, and I think that is both part of his pride and his fear. Despite everything, he still struggles with loss, and especially that of his children. It makes sense after all. The only ones who'll truly be able to live as long as he can are his own offspring. And he's always taken the death of one of my siblings especially hard. Usually with that he brings a fury to those if there's anything that wronged them, and if it's an accident, he simply mourns. So, it's both pride in his name and also believing that the transformation in a way is salvation. And I suppose it can be in a way or two, but it also alienates us from society, prevents us from living like other Veskir.
You do not get a choice. The only reason that you have one, up until this point, is by torturing yourself. That is still not fair to you or your siblings.
There's nothing we can do about it. It's in our blood. It's part of who we are from the very moment we're born. It's part of our genetics, and while he was able to change himself, to alter it to remove this would be dangerous. And Father may be a geneticist, but one of the things is that his lab frequently goes empty. I suspect that it's not something he wants to return to after the war. I can't say why, but he tends to dabble in many other subjects. He's knowledgeable, but sometimes I wonder if he wants to leave that behind. Regardless, I don't hate it. It's simply, I thought I could do better in the light rather than needing to be careful in the shadows. And I like to think I did for a time.
I believe you still can. You should not let your heritage define who you will become.
I'll do my best to stay the same me, of course, or at the very least, keep to my ideals and honor, but I also need to be careful because if it were to get out what the Renau family is, not only would it damage his control over things, which he uses to keep things stable, but our family would be hated and attacked. It's not just for my sake that I need to keep this secret, but for my father and for my siblings. It's why we're so protective about the secret. If this got out, I don't know what would happen.
Take it from me. Self-discovery is a difficult yet necessary journey. You have been stunted, but that does not mean that you should abide by something set for you. Self-discovery is just that. A discovery of the self. By yourself. For yourself. Just because I was a seraph, and still am, does not define what I can and will do in the future. I want to peacefully integrate into society so that I can mourn in my own way. To let the sacrifice of the scientists who saved me live on. That is not dependent on me being a seraph, but rather me as a person. Just like how you should not have that defined for you. That is not the person that you are, someone who wants to help someone that wants to protect. That is you. That is not something that should be or could be taken away from you just because of what you are. You should not have to hide in the shadows just because your father decrees it.
Sertia is giving you a bit of an odd look. It's hard to place, but she's just kind of looking at you and then says, "You two are so very different, but at the same time, you're reminding me quite a lot of my mother." She hated my father's insistence on keeping things secretive and in the shadows. Even after she was transformed and saw her new figure, she believed that she should be allowed to go out and do what she did before. And indeed, she quite often snuck out and continued her sky piracy ways before father pestered her enough to come home. She never did get to the same degree of prevalence under her new fake name, but she was able to operate under the assumption that she was simply a fan of the late captain. Regardless, one of the things she continued to insist to me is, regardless of what father says, I should do whatever I can to go out into the world and help people. She was very influential growing up, and my father keeps saying how much I remind him of her. And I suppose even now it still shines through. Even now, I can't stop that burning desire to try and save lives and fight against the corruption in the world I've seen so much of. I don't know. I feel like I've lost my way, though, over years of suppressing myself and dealing with military politics. It feels like I've been drowning. And with the seal so damaged, I suppose I can begin to properly feel how miserable I've been. And yet I'm also unsure about the future. But I will take your words in mind, Viz. I'd like some time alone to think, if you wouldn't mind.
Viz will nod and head towards the door and just leave unceremoniously.
And when Viz closes the door, Sertia will sit down, too lost in thought actually to double check that Viz basically, didn't disturb anything on the way out. And she's going to go to her armor, and this is going to be very quick, don't worry about it, but take out the ocarina she carries.
Okay.
And she's going to reminisce about the story of the ocarina. It was actually her mother's instrument, and her mother played it, and her mother wasn't the best at it. But she played it and played it with her soul and her heart. And even when, it was little more than just barely cognizant sounds that represented music, she had fun with it. But she also told the story to Sertia when she gave it to her, is that it was a gift from her former first mate, who retired. But before leaving behind, this first mate basically being the reason why she got to the promise she did, because every time she had doubts, and she struggled and didn't know if she was doing the right thing, this first mate, this best friend, would assure her and tell her to follow her heart. And when the first mate retired, they handed the ocarina and asked her to, whenever she was worried or stressed about the things she was doing in her life, just take out the thing and play it. even if it was bad, even if it didn't, didn't really represent music, they just said try to play it from the heart. And even if she never got good at it because she refused to practice, just listening to herself kind of helped in a way, just playing with the notes. And so she takes it out and starts to do the same. And let's see how she does here. Because she's going, she lets her emotions and whatnot leak through, not forcing them, but just letting them flow through her, even as, muted as they are. I have one Benny left over from last session. Can I use that to try and re-roll that and get the
Go
plus
ahead.
2? All right, plus 2. Okay. Because I would
wild die.
Yeah, exactly. Wild die.
Yeah.
Plus 2.
Ah.
If you want to describe, I can't imagine she'll play it like good, but
I mean, you could describe it. It wasn't a success, but
well, no, because remember, I have plus 2s on rerolls.
oh, fuck, right. Well,
Yep. So the success goes. Unlike last time, she's hesitant at first, and she starts playing the notes. But this time, something comes to her, and she starts to play. The notes are disjointed, off tune, but she eventually starts to get it close enough that she's able to start hearing the clearer tones. Instead of actually playing music, she just starts to listen to the notes. But smooth, gentle, breathing deeper, focusing. Maybe this was the point, the exercise after all. Not to actually play music, but to focus on the sounds of it all. Or maybe she's just imagining things. But she spends a good time doing this and trying to let her emotions soak through and reminisce about her mother. And that's what she's probably going to do until she decides to finally go to bed. Playing single notes of clear tones.
all right. And that is where we will end this one. Thank you all for listening, dear viewers, dear listeners. We will see you all for the next session or extra, whatever it might be. And you all have a good night.
Stay tuned for the thing when Lucretia approaches Viz,
Most certainly.
because her suspicions are boiling over.
Oh boy. Take care, y'all. Bye.
Bye-bye.